Welcome to Pixel Cortex, where video games meet science, philosophy, and the future. Today, we're diving into a powerful question. Can a fictional character in a game actually change who you are? Not just entertain you, not just thrill you, but reshape how you see yourself, others, even the world. From gods and outlaws to soldiers and cyberpunks, we'll explore 7 iconic characters whose emotional weight goes far beyond the screen. These characters reflect our pain, our choices, our fears, and sometimes the version of ourselves we didn't know we were hiding. Let's begin.
Kratos, the god of regret and redemption.
Kratos isn't just a god of war. He's a god of rage, of guilt, of grief. From slaying Olympus in his youth to guiding his son in the Norse realms, Kratos becomes the embodiment of generational trauma and the brutal journey of healing. Do not be sorry. Be better.
I'm sorry.
Do not be sorry. Be better.
That single line to Atreus carries philosophical weight, not just as advice, but as a confrontation with the past, a call for accountability, for growth. Because Kratos doesn't merely fight gods, he fights the man he used to be. Through his arc, Kratos teaches us rage without control destroys everything. His wrath once consumed gods, innocence, and even himself. The Greek saga is a cautionary tale, a mythic warning of what happens when emotion becomes a weapon. Redemption is not given, it's earned through action. In the Norse games, Kratos rarely asks for forgiveness. He simply tries to become better, brick by brick, battle by battle, modeling the real, grueling process of change. And fatherhood is not about dominance, it's about presence. He doesn't try to shield Atreus from hardship. He walks beside him, silent, struggling, but never absent. His parenting is imperfect, and that's what makes it powerful.
Symbolically, Kratos evolves from a blade-wielding instrument of revenge into a man who buries his weapons in the ground, choosing dialogue, restraint, and understanding over destruction. Real-life reflection? For many players, especially men raised in environments where emotion was weakness, Kratos is more than a character. He's a mirror. He reflects the anger we weren't taught to process, the fathers we feared or never had, the expectations we were crushed under, and the hope that it's never too late to break the cycle. Men across communities have written about how God of War 2018 helped them talk to their sons for the first time, apologize for past mistakes, or simply say, "I love you." Words Kratos struggles with too. Kratos' story is myth, but his message is human. No matter how deep the scars, you can choose who you become next. V, the digital ghost.
V never asked to be a legend. They just wanted to make it. A better life, a bit of power, maybe a name that meant something. But Night City doesn't give without taking more. And V is what's left after everything else is stripped away. Their story isn't about being a hero. It's about identity under siege, physically, mentally, existentially. You are dying. Every choice you make is colored by the ticking clock in your head. The chip, the corruption, the shadow of Johnny Silverhand bleeding into your brain. You are not alone, but you also aren't fully yourself. The lines blur between who you were and who you're becoming, until even you don't know which thoughts are yours. Psychological lens. V represents dissociative identity conflict, mixed with the existential dread of digital immortality. Who are you when your memories aren't entirely your own? When someone else's voice is whispering in your head and you start agreeing with it? V's journey is terrifying because it mirrors something real, the fear that we are not in control of our minds, our bodies, or our future. Moral ambiguity. V is trapped in a world where morals are commodities. Save the innocent or survive another day. Trust your allies or cash them out before they cash you. And yet, despite the decay, players often choose kindness, not because Night City demands it, but because V deserves to die a human, not a relic. Player empathy. V speaks to anyone who has ever felt like they're losing themselves, to time, to illness, to trauma, fought to remain them in a world trying to rewrite them, or had to make impossible choices under pressure.
Ghost, the mask we wear. Ghost isn't just the man behind the skull mask. He is the mask. Not because he's hiding from enemies, but because he's hiding from himself. In the high adrenaline world of Call of Duty, where action dominates and bullets speak louder than words, Ghost is quiet. He's not the loudest in the room, but he's the most haunted. And that's what makes him unforgettable. Simon Ghost Riley was never meant to be just a badass in a balaclava. His lore tells the story of a man broken from the inside out, abused as a child, betrayed by those he trusted, tortured, brainwashed, and left with scars too deep for words. And so he puts on the mask, not to scare others, but to protect what's left of himself. People like us don't get happy endings. That line isn't just cinematic, it's a philosophy. Ghost doesn't believe in peace, not because he's cynical, but because hope feels dangerous. When you've been hurt enough times, hope becomes a liability. Psychological concept. Ghost embodies dissociation, a psychological response to trauma where the mind detaches from emotion to survive. PTSD, common in soldiers, often leads to emotional numbing. Humor becomes armor. The mask becomes identity, and silence becomes a way of saying everything without saying a word. Why does he matter to us? Because Ghost is not a fantasy. He's a reflection of the men and women who've seen too much and said too little, of the people who laugh when they're hurting, of those who wear masks, real or emotional, just to get through the day. Real life reflection. In a world obsessed with transparency, Ghost reminds us some pain is too sacred to show. And for many players, especially those who've served, lost, or endured deep personal trauma, Ghost feels like truth. He teaches us that not every warrior is loud, that silence doesn't mean weakness, and that the people who seem the most put together are often the ones barely holding on. Final insight. Ghost isn't just a character. He's a coping mechanism made human. He wears a mask so that we might finally take off ours. Joel, Love in a Broken World.
Joel Miller isn't just a man who lost a daughter. He's a man who lost himself and kept walking. When the world collapsed, so did his soul. What remained was a shell, cold, efficient, detached. But then came Ellie, and for the first time in 20 years, Joel felt something he thought was gone forever: hope. But here's the thing about hope in a broken world. It's dangerous. Because when you start to care again, you risk losing again. Joel is not a traditional hero. He's not noble, not morally consistent. He's not trying to save the world. He's trying to save her. And in doing so, he dooms everyone else. The climax of The Last of Us isn't just about a hospital or a vaccine. It's about a choice. Do you sacrifice one to save many, or save one and live with the guilt? Joel chooses love, and that love, selfish, irrational, human, becomes one of gaming's most debated decisions. You keep finding something to fight for. That's not survival. That's something more powerful: devotion. Philosophical concept. Joel's choice dives deep into moral philosophy. Utilitarianism says, save the many. Deontology says, do what's right, even if it's hard. Joel breaks both. He acts from a third space, personal morality, a space where love isn't logical, but it feels right.
Psychological reflection. Joel represents trauma bonding, a connection formed under intense stress and grief. He doesn't just love Ellie, he needs her, because without her, he has no reason to live. His decisions aren't just about protection, they're about preserving identity. Player impact. Joel makes players uncomfortable because he doesn't give us a clean answer. He forces us to ask, what would I do if the person I loved was all I had left? In real life, Joel connects with anyone who's lost someone too soon, made impossible choices, chosen love over logic, lied to protect someone. Because sometimes we don't need a hero. We need someone who refuses to let go, no matter the cost. Final reflection, Joel is love, raw, flawed, and dangerous. And The Last of Us doesn't ask us to agree with him, it dares us to understand him.
Jin Sakai, Between Two Worlds. Jin Sakai is not just a samurai. He's a man suspended between two collapsing worlds. One built on honor, tradition, and centuries of ritual. The other shaped by invasion, loss, and the raw need to adapt or die. Born into nobility, Jin is trained to uphold the samurai code. Face your enemies head on, die with honor, never strike from the shadows. But when the Mongols arrive, none of that works. His uncle, Lord Shimura, represents the old world, rigid, proud, defined by legacy. Jin, he becomes the ghost, a myth, a whisper in the dark, a protector born from pain, not pedigree. And in doing so, he breaks everything he was taught to be. I will sacrifice everything for my people. That line, simple on the surface, holds existential weight. It's the cry of a man who realizes that to protect what matters, he must lose who he was. Philosophical layer. Jin's journey is a study in existentialism. Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." That's Jin. He chooses his path not because it is celebrated, but because it is necessary. He forges meaning in a world where tradition offers only death. This isn't just a story of war. It's the story of identity. When identity collapses, do you uphold a code even if it means losing everyone you love, or do you break it to save them and be condemned for it? Psychological conflict. Jin suffers from internal dissonance, torn between the ego ideal, who he was trained to be, and the adaptive self, who he must become to survive. This isn't just a battle with enemies, it's a battle with the mirror. His guilt grows as his legend rises. His connection with his uncle fractures. His name becomes feared, not revered. Player impact. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't tell you to abandon honor. It shows you what happens when honor no longer protects the ones you love. As a player, you feel that tension. You sneak not because it's fun, but because it's the only way. You choose compassion or vengeance with real moral weight. Jin changes us by showing how hard it is to walk a new path when every voice around you is screaming to walk the old one. Real-life connection. Jin speaks to anyone who has ever disappointed their family to follow their truth, anyone who's ever stood at the crossroads of identity and duty. He reminds us, growth often demands betrayal, not of others, but of who we used to be. Final reflection. Jin Sakai is not the man his uncle wanted. He's not the samurai Tsushima remembers. He is something else, something necessary. In saving his people, he loses his name, but finds his soul.
Geralt, the Witcher and the Weight of Neutrality.
Geralt of Rivia isn't a savior. He's a hired sword, a mutant, a relic of a dying order. He doesn't crave glory, only coin and a bit of silence. Yet the world keeps forcing him into chaos. Geralt's tragedy, he was created to kill monsters. But the monsters he faces most, we're human faces. Kings, mages, bandits, lovers, all ask him to pick a side, and each side swears it's right. Geralt tries to stay neutral. He doesn't want to shape the world. He just wants to survive it. But as he says, quote, "Evil is evil. Lesser, greater, middling, makes no difference." Still, in a world drenched in gray, refusing to choose is a choice itself. Philosophical lens, Geralt represents moral fatigue, the weight of constant decisions, none of them clean. He is the embodiment of moral relativism in a decaying world. No clear right, no clear wrong, just consequences. Players often try to do what's right, but The Witcher teaches you there may be no right. Save one town, doom another. Help one friend, lose another. Mercy creates suffering. Cruelty brings peace. Every choice echoes, and every echo leaves a scar. Psychological impact on players. Geralt doesn't just test your logic, he tests your values. Are you willing to uphold your ideals even when the world punishes you for them? Or will you compromise just to feel better? The game never punishes you directly, but it lets you punish yourself with regret. Real-world reflection. Geralt is a mirror for the modern human, burned out, surrounded by politics, forced to choose between bad and worse. He reminds us that neutrality is not weakness. It's a battle in itself. Sometimes the noblest path is the quiet one, the path that hurts no one and satisfies no one. He isn't a hero, but he teaches us something vital. In a world that demands you pick a side, staying true to yourself
is the bravest choice of all. These characters don't live in our world, but they reshape how we live in ours. They bleed, break, betray, and keep going. They fight for love, for meaning, for scraps of hope, and in doing so, they show us what it means to survive. When the screen goes dark, they don't disappear. They linger in questions we can't unask. Would you have pulled the trigger? Would you have walked away? Would you still be yourself after everything broke? The best games don't hand you answers. They hold up a mirror, and inside it, you see the bravest, ugliest, truest version of you. So next time you play, don't just follow the story. Ask who you're becoming inside it. If this hit something real, like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Which game character changed you, and why? This is Pixo Cortex. We don't just play games, we decode them. Hit the bell, because the next story might just change you too.